Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months for a conviction on transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, this was a lot more than the 14 months defense attorneys asked for, but a lot less than the 11 years that prosecutors wanted. Now, he was convicted back in July for the prostitution-related charges. He was acquitted on sex trafficking and racketeering. Now, I'd like to bring in attorney Tre Lovell, who will break down everything that happened and answer the larger question on what's next for Combs. What is your reaction to the sentencing? Do you think that this was a fair sentence?
I think it was a very fair sentence. And I think it's a good sentence for Diddy. I mean, if we go back to where this started, with the racketeering and the sex trafficking, I mean, had he been convicted on those, he's looking at life potentially. So as well as an asset forfeiture of his businesses and his monies and things like that. So had this gone south, it could have really been devastating, completely taken the liberation of his life, of his freedom and his businesses. So where are we now? We're looking at 50 months, which is less than what the prosecution wanted, which is less than what the sentencing guidelines were. So the judge even came in below that. And so if in light of everything that he was facing from the very beginning, even to now, it's really a good deal for him.
So do you think this is more of a win for the defense then?
I think it's more of a win for the defense. There was no chance he was going to get 14 months. That would have been off the table. What happened here really was, even though sentences for these types of crimes could have been a little bit less, the violence that the judge commented on earlier really, I think, made an impression on the judge. And that's what exacerbated the sentence above and beyond what typically he may have gotten had there been no violence. So we knew that he was going to add that as well. But it could have gone a lot more. Judge, could have been very safe in going within the guidelines of 6 to 7 years. But he chose not to. He came under those. Overall, yeah, I think it's a win for Diddy.
Now, there were some pretty emotional victim impact statements that were submitted to the court ahead of this. Now, Cassie Ventura, who is Combs' ex-partner, who was the star witness really for prosecution, she submitted a statement. I'm just going to take a moment and read a couple lines from Cassie Ventura. Now, she says, quote, "I still have nightmares and flashbacks on a regular, everyday basis and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past. My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. As much progress as I have made in recovering from his abuse, I remain very much afraid of what he is capable of and the malice he undoubtedly harbors towards me for having the bravery to tell the truth. He has no interest in changing or becoming better. He will always be the same cruel, power-hungry, manipulative man that he is." Very emotional, very powerful statement. And I want to take a moment to read Mia, who was another victim who was in the indictment, who actually testified. She was supposed to testify in person today and ended up changing her mind at the last minute. She did submit a statement, of course. And hers said, "What he stole from me cannot be returned. It cannot be reduced to years or money. He stole my freedom, my sense of safety, my ability to trust others, and my confidence. He stole 16 years of my life. Time I should have spent developing into the independent woman I was meant to be. My life has been profoundly broken." Tre, how important were these victim impact statements to the sentencing today?
I think these impact statements were extremely important. These are real victims, true pain, true suffering. And I don't think that fell lightly on the judge. But it was a tough deal for the judge because there was a lot of balancing. There were also a lot of statements in favor of Diddy Combs, his family, the Reverend, other people that were saying he's a changed man. He's not that person that we saw in that video beating up Cassie. He's different now. So even though these victim impact statements were extremely effective and very important, the other statements were as well. So the judge had a lot to balance here. And it really fell upon the judge to look, has Diddy Combs been rehabilitated? How remorseful is he? Is he being holding himself accountable? All those are very important factors. And I think to some extent, the judge did agree with that, did accept that, or he would have gotten in a much higher sentence. So yes, these victim impact statements are very important, but there were a lot of statements there that the judge just had to do a lot of weighing.
I mean, they're definitely prosecutors put on what they, their presentation, and then there seemed to be a parade of people for defense attorneys. I mean, it was all of the attorneys, all of his children. Like you said, it was a spiritual leader. There were so many people that spoke. One person in particular didn't speak today, but submitted a statement in support of Combs, and that was one of the victims in the indictment. Virginia Hune, who's also known as Gina, was named as one of the victims in the indictment. She submitted a statement actually going to the other side, saying that she was pressured by prosecutors. I'm just going to read a couple lines from her. She said, during the investigation, I felt pressured to feel like a victim. I told them I was not, but they insisted that I was, even when I expressed my truth otherwise. I was not trafficked. I did not engage in prostitution with him or others. That would have been my testimony if called to the stand. Does this one throw you for a loop?
It did a little bit, because it kind of puts you inside the prosecutor's office and how things really happened there. And there may have been a little bit of trying to force her to testify, get her on their side. But I think that just didn't mean a whole lot to the judge, because even though she may not have been a victim, there were other victims. And so he's going to look at Cassie, he's going to look at Jane, and look at their circumstances. But I think it was a little bit telling with this third victim in terms of what really happened. But I don't think it really mattered that much to the judge.
And obviously Combs himself spoke, which was the first time we've heard from him for a very long time, and even said it was so hard for him to be quiet throughout this entire process. He expresses remorse. He said, "I'm sorry." He said, "I was a changed man." Do you think that weighed pretty heavily in the judge's decision?
I do. I think from what the reports are is he did what he needed to do to put on his best face to convince the judge that he's accountable, he's remorseful, and he's rehabilitated. That's really what he wanted to show. His statement's only going to go so far. He's the defendant. He's biased. We have this history of evidence, throughout the trial that is not, disappearing and going anywhere else. And so his impact statement, his statement to the judge is going to be effective, but it's going to be limiting in terms of its effect. But I think he did everything he could do to help himself.
Now, obviously, biggest question right now that everyone's asking, what is next? Can you kind of walk us through the process ostensibly of appeal? What's going to be happening now?
Yeah, so he's been sentenced, so he's going to start serving his time. We're not really sure where. The fact that it's a shorter amount of time, it's 50 months, and if you add credit, for time served, that may get him within the range where he may go to a lower security facility. One of these like medium security, not a prison where there's rapists and murders and things like that. So he may get sent to one of those. It's up to the Bureau of Prisons. But he's going to start serving his time. They're going to appeal. And then it's just going to be how quickly the appeal comes around. But one thing we got to notice is, in terms of federal convictions and federal sentencing, they typically serve about 85% of their sentence. And this is because there's credit for good time served, and assuming he's a good inmate and he's not making any problems, it's going to go down to about 85%. And then there are a few other programs he may be eligible for that if he participates in, it could reduce his sentence even more. So even though he's got 50 months, he may actually end up serving maybe 2.5 years or so.
And he already has 13 months credit for what he's given. So we're looking at 3 years, little, like you said, maybe it'll be coming down to about 2 years then.
Yeah. So, if we've got the 50 years or the 50 months, take about 85% of that, it's around 42 months or so. Another maybe 13 for time served. So we're looking at around 29, 28 months. So, 2.5 years technically is the amount of time he'd actually serve. Now,
this appeals process, though, that's not going to be quick. I mean, how long does the appeals process from a legal perspective take going to the appellate court?
Yeah, I mean, it can take a couple of years. I mean, it's not a fast process. And the issues for appeal are going to be a number of things during the trial. But I think in terms of the length of the sentence, that's going to be hard, because The fact that the judge came in lower than what the guidelines were, the recommendations were, it's going to be hard to overturn that on appeal. With respect to the elements of the prostitution charge, I mean, they're going to try to show that that did not fall within the actual elements required there. There was no commercial act. There was no he didn't participate or get the prostitutes himself. Things like that. They're going to argue. It's a tough appeal, but I think that there could be a chance that by the time the appeal is heard and decided, he may be close to the end of his sentence.
Okay, this is not a legal question, not related. Just want to get your opinion. Do you think after this is all done, he's going to try to make a comeback, reinvent himself?
Absolutely.
Or is it over for him?
No. I mean, his reputation, his name has significantly been affected. He's never gonna have the same status as he did before. But I have no doubt he's gonna try to rebuild himself. And there's a number of ways you can do it. You can set up charity organizations, other organizations that help domestic survivors, people that are victims of domestic abuse. There's a lot of things he can do, and with a good PR team, so to speak, he can get his name out there. He can start rejuvenating his name. And getting more and trying to rebuild it. I have no doubt he's going to do that. There are ways which you can start to rebuild your name. And listen, people have short memories. After a few years, when he served his time, and this is long behind us, and he started to start these organizations, and he still has the chops as a businessman and can still be effective. He may be able to rebuild and rebrand himself.
All right. Thank you so much, Tre, for joining us. Really appreciate your analysis.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.